Table 8, your most significant event?
The most important event that we saw while reading was Dad realizes that he wasn't fair with Paul throughout his life because Dad wants to follow the Eric Fisher dream. One question we have is, why is Dad so mean with Paul? What did Paul do to make him dislike him?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. I want to discuss, what is the relationship between Dad and Paul? Do they not like each other, or do they just ignore each other? How would you describe it? What adjectives would you use to describe that relationship? Go ahead and discuss. Try to come up with 3 adjectives.
Dad has a different, Dad likes football more and Paul likes soccer. They have different personalities that they both like different sports. Maybe
I honestly think that Dad might realize, I think Dad does see what Eric does, but like he's so into football
that he won't mind.
That he don't mind. He probably thinks that
that's okay.
That is okay that to let him do what he does, but at the end he's gonna realize that it's not right because Eric has hurt a lot of people already.
What I think is that Dad doesn't hate like Eric, but like they have like a strange relationship that he doesn't hate him, but he in the same way like he doesn't like his work, like he doesn't like soccer, so he doesn't hate him.
That doesn't go along with Paul. That's why he doesn't know what he does.
So, what is the relationship? Is it dislike? Is it hatred? Or is it just like not worth my time?
Not with my time because since Eric and Dad like football so much, they hang out more, and then since Dad and Paul don't like the same sports, maybe they don't like hanging out with each other.
So you think their relationship or their lack of relationship it has to do with their lack of similar interests, that because they like different things they don't hang out with each other? Okay, Blanca?
Yeah, I don't think it's hate because it's his son or nothing like that. It's just that Dad is too into football. I think, and because Eric is his first child, probably, my first child loves what I love playing, which is football. Probably that's why he's always with Eric.
So you think it's a combination of football and a combination of Eric being the oldest child?
I think because since Dad is not paying attention to Eric to Paul, then Paul is ignoring Dad. So that's going on every day.
So it's like a give and go, right? If he's gonna ignore me, I'm going to ignore him.
What I think is it says somewhere in the book that Dad can play football, and when he was in high school, and it says he made Eric play football. So it's not that they like in the same sport. It's that Dad wants to maybe it's his dream and not Eric's dream.
Okay, so Dad is trying to have Eric fit into his dream because he wasn't able to accomplish his dream.
I think they ignore each other because earlier in the story it says that Eric started playing football, so Dad's liked him more, and because Dad didn't have a chance to go to college football, he wants him to go to college football.
Okay, good.
I think that they're just ignoring each other because it says that Dad was trying to get Paul to play football too, but Paul didn't want to play, so he was just like, oh, since he doesn't want to be part of the dream, then I'm gonna stay with Eric, and that's why he pays more attention to Eric.
Okay.
It's not that he cares more about Paul or something. It's that he thinks it's more important than middle school soccer, because if it's high school football, he could get into a good college, and then he could probably have a chance at NFL, and he thinks that's more important than middle school soccer.
Okay, great. And that was table 8, right? So what I need you to do now is I want you to take out your choices.
Flashlight has his eyes open, and then you know how flashlight can hurt your eyes. You look at it for a long time. That was your prediction? Yeah, that's why I predicted that that Eric maybe got a flashlight, put it on his eyes.
The virtual with the spray paint when he sprays his eyes.
But this one but this one I kind of don't agree because you said to tell Mom and Dad how he got blind. Mom and Dad know how he got blind, but they just didn't want to tell him the truth because they didn't want him to hate Eric for life.
But he already hates Eric.
He doesn't hate Eric.
Yeah, he doesn't. He been hated Eric.
Yeah.
Why do you think he never hangs out?
For me, disliking somebody
He thought he was trying to kill him with a baseball bat.
Hating and disliking, I agree, 2 different things.
He probably dislikes Eric because of what he did, but not his brother.
I'm sure he does hate.
Yeah.
Maybe not for the rest of his life, but maybe just hate him because of what he did.
But if he hated Eric, he would have been told his parents what he's doing.
Yeah.
But like what? Before they moved?
Yeah, the IEP, maybe the parents would have been listening.
But what that doesn't have to do nothing with school. Because
It will also affect his soccer career because if he gets the IEP, he can't play soccer.
No, but we're not
because
talking
they'll
about
think he's
soccer.
blind.
We're talking about the parents believing.
yeah, but if he tells his parents, they're not gonna take his IEP. They're not gonna take his IEP.
Yeah, because they probably won't believe him.
No, you're blind. They know what happened to Paul. They know what happened to Paul with
No,
this
but if he told mom might believe him because mom is like, she's like,
the commander.
no, she's like wondering what's happening because she's seeing things about Eric, how he's acting.
And she might believe Paul.
She might believe Paul.
Remember the time in the
But
window?
then Dad will maybe like try to persuade Mom like to not like do anything because of the football career. The Eric Fisher dream.
Yeah, but remember when Tino got punched by Eric with the ring? Maybe remember when Paul said if it was Dad or Mom in the window, it could have been one of them two. And then when they saw Eric hit Tino, maybe they said maybe it was Mom because she started.
If I was smart of it too, he could bring all those people Eric hit. Because if he brings Tino and the other guy, that's like proof. Like, oh, I'm not lying, and I'm not the only, and I'm not blind. Like that, say, he could have said, you may think I'm blind, but he did that to them too. And I wonder, why doesn't Paul say, they might believe me because he sprayed with spray can my eyes, and I became blind.
Or maybe he's scared of Eric still because he might beat him up or because he threatened him to like
But
go back.
obviously, if he tells his parents, they're gonna put like a stop to Eric. They're gonna stop him.
For already killing one person and injuring two.
But does his parents know that he killed someone?
No. I'm sure now they did. But he didn't kill him, Arthur did.
I think my prediction is that they'll find out. That they'll, and maybe Paul or Arthur will go to jail or something.
You don't say no. Not Paul going to jail, but Eric, because he's the one doing all the bad stuff in the neighborhood and not.
Or maybe the robbery too. Maybe he's the one. Maybe he's the one that did the robbery.
The only reason why the seventh graders went and beat up Arthur too was because Arthur hangs out with Eric.
Because
But Tino, if you were to ask Tino, he will say Eric first.
Yeah, and then Arthur came running to save Eric, but then Victor came and then kicked him in the face. Just like it said in the book. It's interesting. But since they got hurt, maybe now they're more scared of seventh graders. Don't you agree?
But I don't think they might be scared of seventh graders.
They might not be scared of all the seventh graders. Maybe they
might be embarrassed
by seventh graders because they got beat up by seventh graders.
Yes, but like obviously he got embarrassed, and knowing how Eric's attitude is, he'll probably get back at them. Not like they did in front of everybody, but he'll get back at them some way.
It's kind of like everybody because since they did it in front of 500 people, maybe all the students that were there.
They took pictures on video because it was like in the big day.
Yeah, so maybe since there's students there, maybe all the students will be like, hey, Eric and Arthur just got beat up by seventh graders. Spread that truth to everybody in the school, and then now people might not be scared of Eric and Paul. I mean, Eric and Arthur, because how they got beat up. But mostly Eric and Arthur
They'll probably make fun of them too.
Yeah, because mostly they use weapons. They use weapons, that's not fair, because other people don't use weapons. they just use their body, not other materials.
An important trait that Paul possesses.
But maybe they will catch them because they also, my position also is that they broke into a house because remember that there was a robberies around the neighborhood and
Yeah,
the
heavy
You
jewelry.
never know what they could plan. They could plan to like get Eric to go somewhere and get him mad and like get Eric to hit somebody and have like the police around or something like suspicious.
Remember when they said the robberies of heavy jewelry? You know how Miss Ibarra said that a blackjack needs heavy stuff in it? Maybe they put inside the blackjack jewelry, heavy jewelry like diamond on it.
And that's how it kills Luis.
Yeah, maybe because maybe there's a diamond sharp, and then they hit it in the head. Maybe it damaged his head, and then you know how he had that I forgot what it's called, but that sickness thing that if your blood pressure gets too high, maybe you could die right away in a week or a month or a year, or it took 6 days. It took him 6 days to die, almost a week. Because since his sickness got reacted, I forgot what it was called, but since he got reacted and all that, he started dying little by little because of Eric and Arthur. And since maybe Tino knew how his sickness was, and maybe because Luis told Tino what happened.
I wonder if he was. It took him 6 days to die.
Because he was sick, remember? In the doctor.
But he
So I have a couple of groups who are going to go ahead and share out the paragraph they've written so far. So group 8, can you share your paragraph?
An important trait that Paul possesses is bravery. In chapter December 1st, the author mentions that I couldn't stand it. I took another step forward and challenged him. Come on, Eric. Let's see. You can do better with me than you did with Tino. From this, we can assume that Paul has the courage to face Eric face to face.
Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to share is because they have two of the things I'm really going to be looking for in your embedded assessment. They have a direct quote from the text, and then they analyze it. They tell us why this quote is important or why it matters. This is the skill that we've been practicing pretty much since argumentative writing, right? We talked about having direct evidence or having strong evidence, in this case a direct quote from the novel, and backing it up with a deep and thorough analysis. Table 3, can you also share your paragraph?
An important trait that Paul possesses is loyalness. On page December 1st, the author mentions, I landed hard on Coach Warner's back and held on tight. According to the author, Paul tried to help Tino escape from the gym. The people that tried to get him. His action made it clear that Paul helped Tino escape.
Okay, so we have the same thing there, right? We have evidence from the text in the form of a direct quote, and then they also tell us why it's important. It shows us he is loyal because he helps his friend escape, and this means he's a good friend. So really make sure that you're analyzing the importance of your evidence. It's not just enough to give me evidence. You have to tell me why that evidence is important. In addition, I was having a conversation with Table 8, and we're talking about why is it so important to use evidence. Jennifer, can you tell me why it's so important to use evidence, what you told me when we were talking?
It's important to use evidence because, for an example, like if you're in a court, you need to gather evidence like to win, what you're trying to say, like, to win your right.
Mm-hmm. Right? If you were in court and you were trying to win, you wouldn't win if you didn't have any evidence. You were just like, oh, well, I heard from this person on the street that this happened. Do you think the judge is going to believe you?
No.
Is that strong evidence? Now, if you say, I have this picture here that shows that this happened, is that stronger evidence?
Yes.
Yes, right? So you need to make sure you're using strong evidence. If you did not finish your 2 paragraphs, go ahead and finish it for homework. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, I had students doing most of their work individually. They weren't really working in groups, and what I was noticing is that I had a lot of students failing and I had a lot of work that was not being completed. And so after my first observation with my principal, we talked about how could we get more students not only doing work, but just fully engaged in doing work. And so we talked about group work. And group work was something I had tried previously and it hadn't really gone well for me. So I was kind of apprehensive because I was like, the last time I tried it, it was just so much work and I got no output. Like kids were just in groups, like messing around and not doing what they needed to be doing. So what I decided to do was just to approach it in a really honest and frank way with my students. And I told them, these are the reasons why I want to do group work. You learn more when you work in groups. You learn more from each other than you'll ever learn from me. And I guess, and it'll be more fun. But with that said, I was like, if you're not doing the right thing, we'll go back to rows, you'll go back to doing your work individually, and most of you will go back to failing, and you won't be enjoying things. And so I was just really frank and honest with them because like I wanted it to be successful, but I knew the only way I could do that is if they bought into it. And so I just was like, this is the reasons why I think it's important. I think the reason why I would like to do it, but if it doesn't work, I'm not gonna fight with you guys for it. Because I think it's something that'll benefit both of us. But like I said, I'm not gonna fight with you guys for it. And I think that conversation just really helped because I haven't had to fight with them for it. Like they do their work and they do understand that like it is a privilege to be working in these groups. And I think they also do it because they've seen their grades just skyrocket. Like we have kids, I have kids who were like, had like 10% in my classes last year who have like the top classes in the class now. And I think like it's totally all due to group work because they're working, they buy more into what they're doing because they're doing it with their friends. And also because like a lot of the tasks that I'm creating are tasks that like they kind of guide. Like for example, in today's class, the questions for the class discussion are all generated by them. I don't generate them. That class discussion, they lead it. I think if like I had generated the questions and had them answer it, there's not that same kind of commitment and involvement because it's not like what have they put in. Like, so I think a lot of it is just letting them create their own ideas and talk about what they feel is important, and then trying to like kind of guide their conversation sometimes. Like you saw, like at some point they entered additional questions to kind of push their thinking, but for the most part, I let them guide their own thinking and discussion. My goal is to have all the students in my class talking because I have the majority of my students are English language learners, and I feel discussion, especially in these small groups, are going to be the key for them to developing the academic language they need to be successful. With that said, I also want everyone to hear the ideas that are happening in these small groups because when I walk by, I'm like, these are great ideas. I want them to share it. And so what I've noticed is that most of the time the groups choose like one person who talks for them. And like I know like often like it said like, oh, well, everyone needs to be participant in class discussions, but I feel like because they're in the small groups discussing, just having one person from each group discussing is enough because they're sharing those ideas that were happening in the smaller conversation. So the class has the benefit of all those ideas, and the kids who are still struggling to get comfortable with, talking in class, like they don't really have to, but they do in that small situation, and they're comfortable in that. But I'm not trying to force them and to make them feel uncomfortable in this larger group discussion, so they can, kind of like give that task to someone else who has the confidence. And and what I've noticed over the year or over the semester, because I've really only been doing this for a semester, is that kids build confidence as their knowledge and understanding grow. Like I have students like talking now, like Blanca, 6 months ago would have never raised her hand in class. Yes. Oh my gosh. She would have never spoke, like she never said anything, and it's because she was very self-conscious of her language because she's she's an English language learner and she feels that her English hasn't really reached the level to be speaking in public. And so like it just amazes me, like in the last couple of weeks she's really started talking and expressing her opinions in a way that she never would have done a couple of months ago. So they start off with doing reading and signposts at home for homework. So they read the text, they mark down the signposts, which is what I got from the note and notice. So they do that at home and they bring it in and they choose the one that is most significant or important to them and they share it to their group. Then they have that opportunity to discuss like different important events in the story in that small group setting. And so then we talked about synthesis, which I got from the academic discussion book. And we talk about like how you have to challenge each other and grow each other's ideas. So they take their individual ideas and they synthesize to create like this significant idea that they feel the most significant event of the entire story. And from there, they also create a question. So that question is the questions we use for the group discussion, and that synthesis is just really to help them like practice the skills of collaboration, like practice challenging ideas and like not always saying that, okay, that's right. Because one of the things I wanted them to learn is like to challenge, and even challenge me and be like, no, don't accept what I tell you to be fact, because this is story, this is my interpretation of it. Like it's not, your interpretation of it might be different, and that's fine, because we all bring different things to stories. So like to what we read. So just really talking about like challenging ideas and not just being like, okay, well, because she's a smart person, so she's always right. This is what is truth. So I'm like, no, it's challenging and creating and building. The only norms we really talked about at the beginning of the year is like, we talked about being respectful and like, you know, how we needed to have a safe environment to talk, because you know, pretty much all I told them was like, if you guys are rude and belittling to each other, no one's going to want to talk. And if no one's talking, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, I'm putting you back in rows. And so it just goes back to like that thing, like this is only going to work if you are doing the work. And they know that part of that work is not belittling their partners and not being rude and not shutting down ideas, because all ideas have some merit. And so like that's just been part of like their buy-in, and just really being like, you have to take this work seriously or it's not going to happen.
Have you had to like do little interventions along
At the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the semester, I would say like maybe once or twice, but I was really proud to say that it really became a non-issue, because they really bought it into like the importance of it and the value of it. And like I think they really liked being considered authorities in the subject matter, and like being creating their own idea. They think it empowers them in a way that like teacher-directed instruction never could.